Good Saturday morning and welcome to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Executive Randy Porter. We're on our maiden voyage today with my new show featuring all the great things happening in Putnam County. I don't want this to be your typical talk show, but something special, both entertaining and educational, as we look at the great community we live in. Each week I'll interview special guests that will range from our community leaders to CEOs of new businesses moving to our county, along with the leaders of our existing businesses that have shaped our community over the years. You will hear from people behind the scenes that create the special events in our community that we all enjoy, plus much, much more, with several other segments of our show that I think you will find both informative and thought-provocative that will unveil a little later in the show. I also want to say a special thank you to Zimmerman Broadcasting and Brent Fleshman for encouraging me to do this show. Now, here we go. Today in Putnam County. My special guests today are the founding fathers of the most anticipated project in our community in many years, the new retail development we call Shops at Eagle Point. Gentlemen, Mr. Mike McGuffin, Mr. Jeff Browning, and Mr. David Newhoff, we're glad to have you with us this morning, and want to talk to you a little bit about the great new shops at Eagle Point. You know, you brought to our community some of the most wanted stores, and this is probably one of the most highly anticipated projects that we've had in our county. Publix, Ross, Academy Sports, Panera Bread, just to name a few. Our community's been so excited about this project. I'm glad you're with us today. Before we get too far into the project, I first want to ask you how this all got started, and whichever one you want to jump in. Why Putnam County? What had Putnam County on your radar to bring a huge project like this to our area?
Well, Cookeville and Putnam County has been a regional draw for many years, and if you're in our business, you know that that when you look for holes in markets and you try to understand maybe from retailers that might want to locate there, and so you put some feelers out, and sure enough, if you get a few people that might be interested in talking to you, then you might want to pursue something in that market. So we knew for many years that this was a hole and there would be some folks interested. We weren't exactly sure who that might be at the time, but that's what caused us to pursue this market.
Were you surprised at the pin-up demand that there was for retail in our community when you started looking at it? Was it more than you originally expected it to be, or not?
I think when we initially looked at it, we thought that there was a need and there was a certain demand by these national retailers. But I think once we got in it and understood it, studied the market, the more we became more surprised about how much pent-up demand was here and how far people were traveling to actually get the goods and services that they needed.
And when you looked at comparable markets to Cookeville, there were void of certain retailers that we were doing business with in other markets, and so that made a lot of sense to keep pursuing and try to finish putting it together. So
when you look at a timeline of this project, Jeff, I guess you're probably the longest into the project, going back to
that's a fair statement.
20.
he had hair when this started.
Oh, okay. So, for our radio listeners, you may have lost some in the process. But,
when I didn't lose turned gray. So we started here in 2012, and the thing about that from conversations with retailers that were interested at that time, we knew it was going to be a very tight area that they would be interested in locating, and everybody who knows of anything about Cookeville and the success of some of the restaurants on Interstate Drive, it didn't take a whole lot of ingenuity, I guess, to realize that the 40 acres behind some of those restaurants might be a good site. So that was a process that we went through with those particular landowners to get that under contract, and that's when I teamed up with Mike and when we were able to do that and start working on some of these retailers and getting more specific about who might actually end up in the market.
And I know that's a process that you have to work through with all these big retailers. Who'd you start with first? Was there one that stuck out that you knew that you wanted to be in the shops?
Well, so Mike and I had already, we'd done an Academy Sports in Clarksville, Tennessee. I did a second one in Paducah, Kentucky. We knew that they would be interested. We also knew, because they were interested both from their distribution center and from their normal growth patterns, but we also knew that Dick's Sporting Goods might be interested as well. So that's kind of what started it. And also Mike, one of the reasons that he and I teamed up on some other things, but Mike at the time was also doing some Publix work, and we felt like this was a good market for Publix, and that's really where our discussion started, and surprisingly, actually, where they ended up.
Right, and once we had those anchors in place, once the Academy was involved in Publix, and we knew Ross and some of the others were interested as well. It's just a matter of making some calls to them.
You named the magical word, Publix. I know when coming into office in 2014, hearing, going through the campaign process and meeting all the folks in the county, Publix was the number one that I heard from everyone that they wanted to have here in Cookeville as a retail. Lots of folks were driving to Mount Juliet, Nashville, Knoxville to shop at Publix. So when you started mentioning Publix coming to Cookeville, I think that's what started the excitement. And then about the same time that I came into office in 2014, you had Academy Sports just opened this huge distribution center here at our Filth Interchange, 1.7 million square foot. And so having them as the retail anchor with a retail store here, that just added to the excitement, and the excitement was almost palpable with all the people in the community when they started hearing about all these stores. And then you start adding Panera Bread and Ross and all these other stores to it. Absolutely amazing as to how the excitement grew as we saw it. Did you see it the same way?
I think we did, absolutely. And it's showing its effect with continual leasing with the rest of the shops there, but obviously voids in the market that they were not here, and bringing them on board. People want new choices. They want that, and we were happy to bring that.
And that was the key to this whole development, is we wanted to bring new to market retail, and we were able to do that. And that's hard to do, and there's people that might want to relocate, but we felt like it was the kind of project that, with Academy and Publix anchors, that it would draw additional new to market, and that's how it worked.
Great. You're listening to Today in Putnam County. We have our special guest with us, Mr. Mike McGuffin, Jeff Browning, and David Newhoff, the founding fathers of the shops at Eagle Point. Right here on WHUB 107.7 and 14 The Hub. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're on the air.
Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, Randy Porter. We're talking to Mr. Mike McGuffin, Jeff Browning, and David Newhoff this morning, the founding fathers of the shops at Eagle Point. We've been talking a little bit about the process that you had to go through, but everyone listening, I'm sure, knows some of the delays and issues that slowed the process up. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that and some of the hurdles that you had to jump to make this project happen?
Well, every project has its hurdles, and in this case, we had some wetlands on site that were deemed what's called exceptional Tennessee waters, and so the requirements to mitigate those wetlands are higher than maybe what you might expect in some other types of similar developments. So we had a lot of extra things we had to do. Specifically, we bought and put in a conservation easement. I guess it was 42 acres, 40 plus acres of
Pristine wetland? Is that
exceptional Tennessee water replacement wetlands. We had roughly 3 acres on site.
So you went from 3 acres
And
you purchased 40 acres?
Yes.
So that's a huge difference. So I think that goes to show how you were wanting to serve the community and serve the wetlands and buy this other wetland out there to show that we're mitigating what the small one was that we had to deal with here. Is that correct?
we had good consultants. We have good relationships with TDEC and the city and the other governmental agencies, and that's really what it's all about, is to find that common ground and do do something that is helpful for the environment, so that you offset what issues you run
Absolutely.
into that
Yeah.
maybe are harmful to the environment. So it's part of what we do, and in this instance, it was a long, arduous, protracted process, but we were able to persevere, and thankful that everybody worked with us like they did.
Yeah, we weren't trying to skirt anything. We were going above and beyond what we thought we needed to do. We worked with TDEC closely for that. There were some challenges on the way, some appeals by some groups out there, but I think in the end we felt like we were doing the right thing with the conservation easements, and again, over and above what we thought, but it worked out. It worked out great.
What kind of, Mike, what kind of delay do you think that added to the project of having to go through all the stuff to do with the
It's
wetlands?
close, 18 months to 2 years, don't you think, guys? I mean,
I would agree.
it added a lot of time on it.
At least.
And we always knew that we would prevail, or we really strongly thought that we were going to prevail, but you had to go through the normal process, and we just didn't want to, we didn't want to jump too quickly, so.
And the hard thing is to convince not only landowners but the tenants to stay with you, and to hang in there, that we felt confident and that we would overcome this, and I'm thankful that they did.
Yeah. I think it speaks highly also to the city to Cookeville in this region, that they wanted to wait and be patient, and they hung in there with us.
Well, and it was a mutual team effort, I think. We wanted you as bad as you wanted us, I think, to be here. Was it difficult with the tenants, keeping them, hand-holding them to
Yeah,
2
that was-
years?
It was a challenge.
Yeah, that was my
yes.
challenge.
I'm sure they
That was
had
my-
it.
It was a challenge. It was a challenge. But again, I think it speaks to this region and what they anticipated their sales were going to be. And yeah, it was difficult, but luckily they were patient with us.
In talking to a lot of the owners, we've had several ribbon cuttings down there already. Of course, Public's been the first one. I think may have set some records on some grand openings and weekend sales and so forth. They all seem pleased that they did stick it out and stay with us. And I don't think we lost many tenants. Most of your large ones, Publix, Academy Sports, Ross, all your anchor stores basically stayed with us during that period.
They did.
They did.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see their sales doing well and being validated, that we had the right market, we had the right site, and the community embraces them. So it's nice to see that everybody's doing so well.
Everybody worked together as a team to make it happen.
For sure.
You had to have one of the best construction companies I think I have seen that came in and conformed that piece of land to what it is today in such a short amount of time. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you had horrific weather for a lot of months while that was going on. It seems like that didn't stop them. They were down there working in the rain and all of other kinds of conditions.
Yeah, not only did we then hurdle the issues with the appeals on the wetlands, we get started construction, and then we have the wettest year, it seems like. Winter starting, in November. So Stuart Perry, based out of Alabama, was our general contractor, and yeah, they did a great job. They kept on schedule. They did over and above what was needed to stay on track, and delivered it right on schedule when they said they were going to do it. And so it was very, to have them perform the way they did, it was a huge benefit to us.
And there's a lot of topography on that property, and then we had a lot of rock to deal with. We had TVA transmission lines, and there were just a lot of challenges on the site.
Well, it was amazing to drive by there at 10 o'clock at night. They had their big lights up and going and working and on down into the wee hours of the morning. So that's absolutely shows a great construction company and that they were dedicated to the project. Is 240,000 square foot or so, is that about the size of the project? As far as opening space that you have left that you don't have a tenant for yet, do you have an amount?
I think right now we're down around the 15,000 square foot range. So most of these are small shop spaces. So obviously, if anybody's out there looking around for new space, we'll be glad to accommodate you where we need to. But I think we have a good mix of small shop retail with the larger box tenants, and there is room for a few more out there.
If there's companies out there, merchants that's looking for space, can one of you give a phone number or something they can call?
I thought
to
they were
contact
calling you, Randy.
Well, they can. You can contact me, or I'll be glad for y'all to give a phone number out for them to contact you.
Yeah, you can call me. This is David at CBL 423-490-8649. I won't be doing the work for you, but I can hand you off to Lewis
Put you into
Hilton, is our leasing exec for the property there, and he will answer any questions you might have and be glad to talk to you.
That is great. Guys, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you being with me today on the first show, and this has been a great project. Like I said, one of the most anticipated projects that I think our community has seen in many years. We appreciate you doing it for us, and we'll always be grateful for you bringing it to our community. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Glad to
Thank
be
you.
on your maiden show there.
Exactly. And thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. You're listening to Today in Putnam County on WHUB 107.7 and 14 The Hub. I'm Randy Porter, your host. Stay with us. We'll be right back.